let me be honest. Every film stresses the team. Like for example, when you're working on a horror, it's not as the same as working on an action film. Those are different fields, but they stretch you. You can buy expensive software right now, and in the next 5 months, it's obsolete. Let me just give you an easy example. Look at how Apple and Samsung are releasing phones every single year. Quad A Group is an audio post-production and audio solution hub. We provide audio solutions to multiple industries. In my earlier days, started out as someone very passionate about making music. I was fortunate enough to get mentored by different producers along the way, some of whom produced Judith Babidie in the past. His name is called Victor Rintho. And shouts out to him. He really played a big role in my production career. My music started to grow and my parents started to notice there was a gifting in there. Oh, like this guy, something about this guy. So I remember them buying me a big piano. They bought a big piano. That was the first time something for me, like my parents have bought. I was young, very young. Now this is very early. I guess I was, around 8, around there. So I used to have small pianos and but they saw, oh, wow, there's a liking for music for this guy. So they bought me a piano and started playing the main service. Like this small little boy, but playing for the big congregation. Wow, that was a cool time. So the computers we have today, those computers were in the keyboard and you were able to program and make a track for an artist inside the keyboard. And because I used to spend a lot of time with the keyboard, I started to, make beats at that time. So I started seeing there was a challenge of quality. We were not doing things to the quality that the world really deserves to do. So that brought a hunger at that time. And I remember around 2000, the name Quad A was born. Quad A simply came from, many people think it's Andrew Ahuurra, Simwe Aboki, but it's bigger than that. Quad A speaks of excellence, because in the days we used to do 4 principal passes, which were 4 A's. You had 4 A's. So you had, if you're going to do very well in school, you had to have like A. Like I don't know if you, right now I think it's 3. I'm not sure what the academic structure is. Having quadro A's was like, you're the best. So it stuck, and the name Quad A was born out of excellence. Like we had to be excellent in everything we do. And that principle has stood from 2000 to today. So we incorporated the company in 2012, and we have been on it with various milestones. I was employed under Parapanda. Parapanda was Isaiah Katuma's brand, like record label. And we worked with Rachel Namubiru. We worked with Hamke, Isaiah Katumwa, a bunch of other artists. But at that time, I felt like so before that, I was in a band called Milege. It was a prominent band at the time. It was playing together with in the days of Kwela, and we used to do world music. So from that time, I felt like the calling, my gifting and my purpose for life was more to help and elevate the people behind the scenes and not being on the foreground. And so we worked with Isaiah Katumwa at the time, and then Quad A started around 2012. And I remember Isaiah Katumwa was the one who really opened up that door for us to start entering like deep production for commercial stuff. And then later I worked with a lady called Marion. I forget the name, but she was, her stage name was called Lily White. And I remember Quad A wanted to be a record label, not having an idea what it takes to run a record label, but we started as a record label. So we signed up Lily White, and we did music, and actually her music really did well on radio. She did a song, Don't You Worry. We remember doing, after Don't You Worry, we did, I think, Come Home. And they were hits on radio. Like, they topped #1 for weeks. And that felt a certain type of way. So that was the first artist who we managed and broke out into the public with, actually, as Quad A. That was Lily White. And then, of course, we worked with a very beautiful artist called Jess Nyara. Right now, I think she's doing DJing, but she was in fact, she was one of the people who believed in us in the past. We had another artist called Delia. So we really started as working with artists and doing artist music, pushing it out on radio, trying to run like a record label until we found that the market was really not what we thought it was. I've done concerts with many artists. I've had the privilege of working with many artists. I've worked with Angelique Kidjo. I've worked with Huma Sekela, the late. I have worked with, of course, I spoke of Isaiah Katuma. I've worked with Eddie Kenzo. I've worked with Bebe Cool. We actually recorded Bebe Cool's. In 2013, we recorded Bebe Cool's live concerts. We actually recorded 3 of his concerts live. There was the one happening at, was it Cricket Oval? I think it was Cricket Oval, when he was dressed in some robotic thing. So we recorded that. Stuff started rolling out. We worked with Caesarus. I don't know if you guys know Caesarus. We've worked with many artists. And all these artists know that when you're coming to Quad A, you're coming to get quality. And it's quality, it's sound that you know that if you put out there, it's going to represent you on the international or even regional scale. When we go to the Christian circles, we have worked with Miracle Center, Worship Harvest, Fanero. We have worked with all of them. Pastor Mbonye's church, Serwada's church. We have been doing consultancies, but all starting from that place of we want excellence and we want to be known for excellence. We then started seeing gaps in the film industry. The film industry didn't have people focusing to work on the audio. So people would put out stuff and it was just maybe dubbed in Uganda and it was loud, not mixed well, and our Ugandan films didn't sound the way you'd go in and watch an Avengers film or an Iron Man film. And that got us thinking. So I remember our first film we did was actually with Matt Bish. That was our first official film that we did, and it actually did well on the global scale. We were nominated for Best Soundtrack, and that was our very first film. And that shows you the power of sticking to rebranding Africa with excellence and through sound. So we did that first film, and we've done a couple. But 2025 was quite unique because we did one of the biggest films on the continent with Burna Boy. One of Burna Boy's, his first film actually. And it was directed by Asaf. And that was quite a breakout because it was released across Europe, the States, and here in Africa because it had a lot of languages. It was a French Nigerian collaboration. So that, and we actually won Best Sound in the REFA Awards, which was a very big achievement for us. We also did another horror film in 2025, Miss Kanyi. Miss Kanyi was also part of the slate of Nemsia Studios, which got a very unique deal with Amazon Prime to produce, I think it was 15 films, and they have finished, I think, 9, and the rest are in post-production. But we did one of those slates, which was called Miss Kanyi, and it did well on Amazon Prime. And we also did Freedom Way. Freedom Way was actually one of the other great films that we did. It was a Nigerian film, also talking about the atrocities that are happening with the police, forcing people to come out of their cars, getting bribes, and they end up shooting a civilian, and they have to sort of cover it up. and there are these innocent boys. I mean, you need to watch it. It did really well. We were nominated for awards in soundtrack, sound. It was directed by Blessing, by Blue. It was directed by Lekon, who works with the producer Blessing Uzi, and that really also did well. It went into festivals. It played in Durban. It played in TIFF in Canada. It really did really well. So those were some of the big highlights that we achieved last year. Let me be honest. Every film stresses the team. Like, for example, when you're working on a horror, it's not as the same as working on an action film. Those are different fields, but they stretch you. They really do stretch you. Like, when you're working on a horror, you want to make sure people are going to get scared. You can't fake it. People have to get scared. So how do you make people scared? Using silence as a tool, and then jump scares, and then having all these eerie sounds. But then how do you make it authentically African? Because that was the thing, because it was placed in an African setting, and it was actually, the horror film was actually having a connotation for us here in Uganda. We have it as Kalabanda. So the version of Kalabanda that we know here, the Kalabanda, I think it's a woman, it's a ghost that has feet that make noise. That's the Kalabanda. But they did it they call it koi koi in Nigeria. And so that version was made. So how do we make it authentically African, but also help people understand, feel the tension, feel the horror, and really make a good horror film. So that also stretched us in that way. But then also now the action thriller was also cool. It stretched us. It was across 3 different cities. I don't know if 3 or 4 different cities in West Africa. So how do you get the authenticity of those cities? So then the team did research. We had very beautiful engineers working. They put in their time. We did a lot of research, trying to understand all these different regions, and also working with the directors. I mean, Asaf was a beautiful director. Bibi and Darren for the horror film Nemsia, we worked with them as well, giving us feedback. And the beauty about working with the director who believes in you and says that we have come to Quad A because we don't want to hold Quad A's hand and show it what to do, but we have brought our project to Quad A because we know you guys are good at this. We're not going to tell you what to do, just do what you do. Once a director believes in you and gives you that freeway, the things you're able to, it's like they've opened up. It's now that you give the client options, and they're like, okay, let's just go with this one, because they have given you the ability to express yourself. So we expressed ourselves in those movies, and that's why we're really happy about them, including Freedom Way. And Freedom Way was very sad, but then happy, lighthearted. It was a mix. So all of them stretch you. They stretch you in their different ways. The film industry is quite structured and has you can clearly follow and look at the value chain in regards to, and also it employs much more people. For example, when you're making a film, you have a crew of about 100 people. Our passion is that Quad A doesn't want to be the only post-production facility around. So that's why we're rebranding Africa. Rebranding Africa means that you're transforming the mindsets of how people think about themselves first. Because if you do not transform how you think, how will you transform other people? You have to change how you think, then other people will follow suit. So that's why rebranding Africa has 3 arms. We want to do high quality products. 2, we want to train the next generation of audio engineers. 3, we want to build products that we can export, audio products that we can export. And we have been successful in doing high quality products. We are doing trainings. We are actively doing trainings this year. Many of the challenges, especially, so we had a series after COVID. COVID hit the world very, in a certain type of way. And that affected, and it boosted technology to rise. So technology has been really rapidly rising, which has brought So for example, you can buy expensive software right now, and in the next 5 months it's obsolete because of how quick technology is running. Let me just give you an easy example. Look at how Apple and Samsung are releasing phones every single year. Before you have finished understanding it, they're talking about an 18 already. The designs for the 18 are out. You have gotten an M4. M5 is already out. You know, and then you ask yourself, what should I do? And then the software, the demand of the software is, they have increased the demand for the software that it can't work on the M4. It needs M5 processing power. So that now you're forced to dump all the other things that you have because the technology is rapidly growing. So that brings an influx, and yet one thing remains true: our budgets don't increase. If budgets used to increase, that would also balance it out. But budgets don't increase, and yet the demand for quality is always changing. So those were some of the challenges that we're facing. We want to be known as people that contributed to excellence and changing the way people see Africa.